My name is Samantha, 27 years old, and last Thanksgiving morning I woke up so excited to host my first family dinner in my new home. After years of trying to earn my father Brian's approval, I thought a perfect turkey and all the trimmings might finally do the trick. I had no idea that by dessert, he would publicly disown me at my own table, or that it would become the most freeing moment of my adult life. If you are watching this from a place where family is complicated too, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. Trust me, sometimes the family we choose matters more than the family we're born into. Growing up in suburban Boston, our family looked picture perfect from the outside. The beautiful colonial-style home with the manicured lawn, two-car garage, and a family of 5 who seemed to have it all together. But appearances can be deceiving, especially when you're trying to meet impossible standards. My father, Brian, now 52, built his reputation as one of Boston's most ruthless corporate lawyers. His briefcase was always by the door, ready for him to rush off to close another deal or win another case. Success was his religion, and he expected his family to worship at the same altar. Failure was not an option in our household. Even second place was just the first loser, according to him. My mother, Diane, 50 years old and perpetually anxious, learned early in their marriage that keeping peace meant taking Brian's side in every argument. She became the perfect corporate wife, hosting dinner parties where she laughed at all his jokes and never contradicted him, even when he was clearly wrong. When it came to us kids, she loved us deeply but never protected us from his criticism. "Your father just wants what's best for you," she'd whisper after he'd tear apart another one of my achievements. Then there's my older brother Tyler. At 30, he's exactly what my father wanted in a son, Harvard Business School graduate, working at a prestigious investment firm, married to the daughter of one of Dad's golf buddies. Tyler learned to play the game early, mirroring our father's mannerisms, interests, and even his ruthlessness when necessary. He could do no wrong in Dad's eyes. My younger sister, Haley, 24 and naturally gifted at everything she attempts, has always been the baby of the family. Her ballet recitals and tennis tournaments were family priorities, with my father beaming from the audience. Even when she decided against law school to pursue fashion merchandising, Dad somehow spun it as a brilliant strategic career move. And then there's me, stuck in the middle. I worked twice as hard as both my siblings for half the recognition. I graduated with honors from the University of Massachusetts with a double major in marketing and communications. The day I received my acceptance letter, my father's only comment was, "It's no Ivy League, but I guess it'll have to do." For years later, when I crossed the stage with summa cum laude honors, he managed a tight smile and said, "Now the real work begins." Currently, I'm a marketing manager at a tech startup that's gaining significant traction in the industry. It's challenging work that I'm genuinely proud of, though my father constantly refers to it as my little job and asks when I'm going to work for a real company. Last month, I was put in charge of our largest product launch to date, managing a 7-figure budget and a team of 12 people. When I mentioned it to Dad, he changed the subject to Tyler's recent business trip to Tokyo. 6 months ago, I achieved something I never thought possible. I purchased my own home. It's not large or fancy, just a 2-bedroom craftsman-style house with a small yard in a decent neighborhood. But it's mine, bought with money I saved, decorated exactly how I wanted it. My father's response when he saw the listing photos, "Couldn't you have waited until you could afford something in a better area?" Then there's Jason, my boyfriend of 2 years. At 28, he's kind, supportive, and passionate about his career as a high school English teacher. He makes me laugh even on my worst days and never fails to remind me of my worth. My father, predictably, was unimpressed. "Teachers are noble, but they don't exactly bring much to the table financially," he commented after meeting Jason for the first time. "You could do better, Samantha." Despite everything, I've never stopped trying to earn my father's approval. It's like an addiction I can't break, that persistent hope that maybe this time, I'll finally be enough. That's why hosting Thanksgiving felt so important. In our family, hosting duties had always belonged to my mother, who executed flawless holiday meals in their sprawling dining room. Taking over the tradition was my chance to prove I was a capable adult worthy of respect. For weeks, I planned every detail. I created spreadsheets for the menu, timing, seating arrangements, and budget. I researched turkey brining techniques and tested 3 different stuffing recipes. I bought new dishes that wouldn't embarrass me and splurged on matching cloth napkins. I deep cleaned every corner of my home, knowing my father would notice any speck of dust or imperfection. Each night after work, I'd stay up late addressing another item on my preparation list. Jason worried I was putting too much pressure on myself, but he didn't understand. This wasn't just a meal. It was my chance to finally prove my worth. "Sam, your family should love you for who you are, not how well you can roast a turkey," Jason said one night as he watched me obsessively polishing silverware. "You don't understand my family," I replied, checking for water spots. "Especially my dad. He notices everything." "That's exactly what worries me," Jason murmured, but I pretended not to hear him. As Thanksgiving approached, the stakes felt impossibly high. I knew that in my father's eyes, this dinner would either be perfect or a complete failure. There would be no middle ground, no points for effort. And despite knowing how unfair his judgment would be, I couldn't stop myself from desperately wanting to succeed. The week before Thanksgiving arrived with an intensity one wasn't fully prepared for. My normal work hours stretched longer with year-end projections due, leaving me even less time for holiday preparations. My boss Aaron noticed me yawning during a meeting and suggested I take some time off. "You look exhausted, Sam." "Is everything okay?" he asked. "Just hosting Thanksgiving for the first time," I explained. "It's a bigger undertaking than I expected." "Family stuff, huh?" Aaron nodded knowingly. "Don't kill yourself over it. It's just a meal." But it wasn't just a meal. Not to me. Not when it came to my family. Each evening after work became a marathon of cleaning and preparation. I scrubbed baseboards, washed windows, and reorganized kitchen cabinets that no one would even see. I wanted everything to be beyond criticism. My living room furniture arrangement was changed 3 times until it felt both welcoming and sophisticated enough for my father's standards. On Monday night, Jason came over with takeout and found me on my hands and knees scrubbing the grout in my kitchen floor with a toothbrush. "Sam, this is getting out of hand," he said, gently taking the toothbrush from my cramped fingers. "Your place is already spotless. No one is going to inspect your grout lines." "You don't know my father," I said, reaching for the toothbrush. "He'll notice." Jason held it away from me. "Then let him notice. If he's the kind of person who judges his daughter by her grout lines, that's his problem, not yours." I wanted to believe him, but 27 years of conditioning doesn't disappear overnight. "I just want everything to be perfect," I whispered. "I know," Jason said, helping me to my feet. "But I'm worried about what this is doing to you." Tuesday evening was dedicated to grocery shopping, which turned into its own disaster. I'd created a meticulous list organized by store section, but the crowds of other Thanksgiving shoppers made everything take twice as long. The store was out of fresh rosemary, and they only had frozen turkeys left. I had to visit 3 different places before finding all my ingredients, getting home much later than planned. When I finally returned, arms laden with groceries, I realized I'd forgotten cranberries. The cornerstone of Thanksgiving dinner, and I'd completely overlooked it. I burst into tears right there in my kitchen, surrounded by bags. Jason, who had been helping me unpack, wrapped his arms around me. "Hey, it's okay. I'll go get cranberries tomorrow." "It's not okay," I sobbed. "I can't even manage a simple shopping list. How am I supposed to pull off an entire Thanksgiving dinner?" "By remembering that you don't have to do it all alone," he said, wiping a tear from my cheek. "And by getting some sleep tonight." Wednesday was my cooking prep day. I'd taken the day off work to get ahead on dishes that could be made in advance. My pumpkin pies turned out lopsided. My cornbread for the stuffing was too crumbly. The turkey was still partially frozen despite being in the refrigerator for 2 days. By mid-afternoon, my kitchen looked like a war zone, and I was beginning to panic. I called my mother for advice on the turkey situation. "Oh, Samantha," she sighed. "You really should have bought it earlier. Your father prefers fresh turkey anyway." "That's not helpful right now, Mom," I said, trying to keep frustration from my voice. Well, you could try running cold water over it to speed up thawing, but honestly, I don't know if you'll have time to properly brine it now, she said. Maybe you should have started with something simpler for your first hosting experience. Easter brunch, perhaps. After hanging up, I called my friend Megan in tears. My mother basically just told me I should have stuck to deviled eggs instead of attempting a real holiday, I sobbed. Your mother is part of the problem, Megan said firmly. Listen to me. The turkey will thaw, the stuffing will be delicious even if the cornbread is crumbly, and if the pie isn't perfect, who cares? It's pie. It'll still taste good. My dad will care, I said quietly. Then your dad can host his own damn Thanksgiving, she replied. But seriously, I'll come over early tomorrow if you need help. Just say the word. That evening, my father called to check in on preparations. Just making sure everything's on track, he said. Your mother mentioned you were having some issues. Of course, she had told him. Everything's fine, Dad. Just some minor hiccups. Thanksgiving isn't really the time for hiccups, Samantha. It's about execution. Remember how your mother always has everything ready a full day in advance? Yes, Dad, I said, gritting my teeth. And you're sure your dining room will accommodate everyone comfortably? Our table seats 12. I have a table for 6, which is perfect for the 5 of us, I reminded him. He said, in that tone that conveyed volumes of disappointment. Well, I suppose it will have to do. After we hung up, I found myself standing in my kitchen, surrounded by half-prepared dishes, wondering why I was putting myself through this. For a moment, I considered calling everyone to cancel. But then I imagined my father's smug satisfaction at my failure, and I knew I couldn't give him that victory. Instead, I stayed up until 2 in the morning, finishing what I could and making lists for the next day. When I finally fell into bed beside a sleeping Jason, my alarm was set for 5 a.m. Despite my exhaustion, sleep eluded me as scenarios of everything that could go wrong played through my mind. It will be fine, I whispered to myself in the darkness. It has to be. My alarm blared at 5 a.m., though I'd barely slept. The sky outside was still dark as I stumbled to the kitchen, mentally reviewing my schedule. The turkey needed to go in by 7 to be ready for our 2 o'clock dinner. Rolls needed to rise. Vegetables needed chopping. The table needed setting. Jason found me 30 minutes later, staring blankly at my turkey, which was finally thawed but looked intimidatingly large. Morning, he yawned, reaching for the coffee I'd already brewed. Want me to help with that? Do you know how to prepare a 20-pound turkey? I asked. No, but I can follow directions, he said, rolling up his sleeves. Put me to work. Together, we tackled the turkey, removing giblets, which was every bit as disgusting as I'd feared, patting it dry, and preparing the herb butter to go under the skin. Having Jason there made everything less overwhelming, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to enjoy the process. This is kind of fun when you're not freaking out, Jason teased as he helped me lift the seasoned bird into the roasting pan. I'm not freaking out yet, I corrected him. Give it time. By 9, the turkey was in the oven, filling my house with promising aromas. We moved on to chopping vegetables, Jason taking charge of the onions that always made me cry. So what time am I supposed to make myself scarce? He asked casually. The question made my stomach clench. We'd had this discussion multiple times over the past week. Jason wanted to be there for dinner, but I'd asked him not to come. Dad's already judgmental enough about this house and my cooking, I'd explained. I don't want to give him another target. Jason had been hurt, but understanding. I get it. Your family, your call. But someday you're going to have to stop hiding me like I'm something to be ashamed of. He was right, of course. But Thanksgiving wasn't the time to take that stand. Not when so much else was at stake. Around noon would be good, I said quietly. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, he said, though his eyes said otherwise. I understand. By 11, we'd made significant progress, but disaster struck when I went to check the turkey. The bottom element of my oven had chosen today to stop working, leaving the bird cooking unevenly. No, I moaned, panic rising. This can't be happening. Jason peered into the oven. It's still cooking, just slower. We can rotate it regularly and maybe increase the temperature a bit. I grabbed my phone and called Megan in tears. My oven is broken and the turkey is going to be raw and everyone will be here in 3 hours. I wailed. Take a breath, Megan said calmly. Jason's right. Rotate it, bump up the heat, and worst case scenario, you can carve it and finish cooking portions in the microwave if needed. Microwave turkey on Thanksgiving? My father would disown me, I said, only half joking. Then he'd be an even bigger jerk than I already think he is, Megan replied. You've got this, Sam. Call me if you need anything else. With the turkey situation somewhat under control, we moved on to the remaining dishes. Green bean casserole assembled. Sweet potatoes mashed. Cranberry sauce transferred to a crystal dish to disguise the fact that it came from a can. Pies arranged on decorative plates. By noon, Jason reluctantly prepared to leave, surveying our progress. Everything looks amazing, Sam, he said, genuine admiration in his voice. Your family is lucky to have you doing this. We'll see if they think so, I said, nerves returning now that his departure was imminent. Jason took my flour-covered hands in his. Listen to me. You have created an incredible meal in this beautiful home that you worked hard to buy. If they can't appreciate that, it's their loss. Remember that, okay? He kissed me goodbye, and suddenly I was alone with my Turkey Day battlefield and my thoughts. I rushed to shower and change, choosing an outfit I deliberated over for days, sophisticated but not trying too hard, festive but not tacky. I applied makeup with shaking hands, cursing when I smudged my eyeliner. At 1:30, my doorbell rang. Taking a deep breath, I smoothed my sweater and went to greet my first guests. Haley arrived first, bearing a bottle of wine and genuine enthusiasm. This place looks amazing, Sam, she exclaimed, looking around my decorated living room. I can't believe you did all this yourself. Her approval gave me a momentary boost of confidence, which quickly evaporated when my parents arrived 10 minutes later. My mother entered with an armful of unnecessary serving dishes. Just in case you needed extras, she explained, peering around my home with poorly disguised concern. My father followed, immediately scanning the space with critical eyes. Bit small for entertaining, isn't it? He commented by way of greeting. And that pink color is an interesting choice. It's called sea salt, I said, trying to keep my voice light. It's very popular right now. He replied, moving toward my dining room. Table seems cramped. We could have hosted at our place if space was an issue. And so it began. Tyler arrived last, full of apologies about traffic and compliments about the smell coming from the kitchen. I silently blessed him for his diplomatic effort, knowing he was trying to counter our father's criticism. As we gathered around my cramped table, I felt a flicker of pride beneath my anxiety. Despite everything, I had pulled this off. The food looked delicious, my home was beautiful, and for better or worse, my family was here. Well, my father said as I began serving, let's see if it tastes as good as it looks. The first few minutes of the meal progressed with an uneasy truce. Everyone made appropriate noises of appreciation as they sampled each dish, though my father chewed thoughtfully, as if conducting a professional tasting. The turkey is a touch dry on the outside, he finally pronounced, and I felt my heart sink despite knowing the challenges I'd overcome with my partially functioning oven. I think it's delicious, Haley countered, shooting me a supportive smile. The stuffing could use more sage, my father continued, either not hearing or choosing to ignore her. My mother jumped in with forced brightness. Everything is lovely, Samantha. So nice to have a break from cooking this year. Yes, quite the experience, my father added, in a tone that made it clear experience wasn't necessarily positive. Desperate to change the subject, I turned to Tyler. How are things at the firm? Any interesting cases? Tyler, bless him, launched into an animated story about a corporate merger he was working on. I barely followed the details, just grateful for the shift away from critiquing my cooking. As Tyler wrapped up his story, he casually mentioned, "Oh, and I should probably share some news. I got promoted to senior associate last week." "That's wonderful," our mother exclaimed. My father's face transformed, genuine pride replacing his previous critical expression. "Excellent work, son. Right on schedule, even a bit ahead of where I was at your age. I always knew you had what it takes." The contrast between his reaction to Tyler's news and his response to anything I'd ever accomplished was so stark it was almost comical. I pushed the observation away, trying to focus on being happy for my brother. "Congratulations, Tyler," I said sincerely. "That's really great." "Thanks, Sam," he replied, looking slightly uncomfortable with our father's effusive praise. Not to be outdone, Haley cleared her throat. "Since we're sharing news." She extended her left hand, revealing a diamond ring that certainly hadn't been there when she arrived. "Davis proposed last weekend." My mother gasped in delight, while my father nodded approvingly. "Good man, Davis. Solid family, excellent prospects at his father's firm. You've made a wise choice, Haley." The next 15 minutes were consumed with wedding talk, potential venues, dress styles, and guest list considerations. I contributed appropriately, asked the right questions, and tried not to feel invisible at my own dinner table. As the conversation finally began to ebb, I decided to share my own news. Nothing as momentous as an engagement or promotion, but significant to me nonetheless. "I actually have some news too," I said during a lull. "My boss is considering me for a director position after the success of our latest product launch. It would mean managing a larger team and budget." I waited for the congratulations, or at least acknowledgement. My father took a sip of wine and asked, "Director at your current company? The startup?" "Yes," I said, enthusiasm fading at his tone. "We're not really a startup anymore. We've secured significant funding and expanded our client base by 60% this year." He replied, cutting another piece of turkey. "Well, I suppose it's a step up. Though there's not much prestige in directing at a company no one's heard of. Now if it were somewhere established, like where Tyler works." "Dad," Tyler interjected, "Sam's company is actually doing really well." "I've heard good things in the industry." "Perhaps," our father conceded, though his tone suggested otherwise. "But stability matters in a career. These tech ventures come and go. No foundation." I felt my carefully maintained composure beginning to crack. "We have a very solid foundation. Our investor backing is strong, and our growth metrics exceed industry averages." "Metrics," he scoffed. "In my day, success wasn't measured in clicks and views, Samantha. It was measured in reputation and legacy. Speaking of which, when are you and that teacher going to get serious? You're not getting any younger, you know." And there it was, the pivot from my career to my relationship status, another area where I apparently failed to meet standards. "Jason and I are serious," I said, struggling to keep my voice even. "We're just not rushing into anything." 3 years seems less like not rushing and more like not progressing, he remarked. "And where is he today? Couldn't be bothered to join family dinner?" The unfairness of this hit like a physical blow. "He wanted to come. I asked him not to because I knew you'd make exactly these kinds of comments." "What comments?" "Legitimate questions about your future?" "Someone needs to ask them," he said, setting down his fork. "Look around you, Samantha. Your brother is excelling in a respected profession. Your sister is engaged to a young man with excellent prospects. And what do you have? A mediocre job at an unstable company, a relationship that's going nowhere, and a house that's barely big enough for this dinner party." Each word landed like a slap. I felt my face growing hot as tears threatened. "Brian," my mother said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "It's Thanksgiving." "Exactly," he replied. "A time for family honesty." And honestly, I'm concerned. At 27, Samantha should be further along. Instead, she's serving us dry turkey in a starter home and calling it success. The room fell silent. Tyler stared at his plate. Haley's eyes widened in shock. My mother looked pained but said nothing further. Something inside me finally snapped. After years of trying to earn this man's approval, of measuring my worth by his impossible standards, I'd reached my breaking point. "My turkey is not dry," I said, voice shaking. "My home is not too small. My career is successful. And Jason is the best thing in my life. If you can't see that, it's your failing, not mine." My father's expression darkened. "Watch your tone, Samantha. I'm still your father." "Then act like one," I replied, surprising myself with my boldness. A real father would be proud of what I've accomplished, not constantly comparing me to others or finding fault with everything I do. He pushed back from the table, napkin thrown down beside his plate. I won't sit here and be disrespected in front of the family. If this is the attitude you're going to take, if these are the choices you're making, then perhaps it's best if we reconsider our relationship. What does that mean? I asked, though I already knew. It means I'm done, he said coldly. Done trying to guide someone who refuses to listen, done watching you waste your potential. As far as I'm concerned, you're no longer part of this family. The words hung in the air, devastating in their finality. Brian, my mother gasped. You don't mean that. I absolutely do, he replied, standing. Diane, kids, we're leaving. This dinner is over. Haley sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. Tyler looked between our father and me, clearly torn. Dad, come on, he started. This is way out of line. Stay if you want, our father told him. But I'm done here. He strode from the dining room. After a moment's hesitation, my mother rose to follow him, casting an apologetic glance my way. Samantha, he doesn't, he's just... She stammered. Go, Mom, I said quietly. You always do. She flinched but didn't contradict me, hurrying after her husband. Haley came around the table to hug me. I'm so sorry, Sam. This is horrible. He had no right to say those things. Tyler joined her. This is messed up. Do you want us to stay? I looked at my beautiful table, the food growing cold, the holiday utterly ruined. No, I said, surprising myself. I think I need to be alone right now. They left reluctantly, promising to call later, leaving me standing in the ruins of the perfect Thanksgiving I had worked so hard to create. Disowned. The word echoed in my mind as I stared at the half-eaten meal, the abandoned plates, the emptiness where my family had been. I'd always known my father was critical, demanding, even cruel at times. But I never thought he would go this far. I sank into my chair, surrounded by the evidence of my failed attempt to finally be enough, and began to cry. The sound of my front door closing behind my siblings felt like the final note in a tragic symphony. I sat alone at my dining table, surrounded by the remnants of a meal that represented weeks of planning and preparation. All that effort, all that hope, shattered by my father's casual cruelty. For a long time, I couldn't move. I just sat there, tears falling silently, replaying his words. You're no longer part of this family. Had he been building toward this moment for years? Had every disappointment I'd caused him, real or imagined, been another step toward this final rejection? When I finally stood, my body felt heavy, as if gravity had intensified. I moved mechanically, scraping uneaten food into the trash, stacking dishes in the sink. The beautiful table setting I'd arranged so carefully now seemed like evidence of my foolishness. How had I convinced myself that place settings and centerpieces could somehow transform my father's opinion of me? My phone rang, startling me. Jason's name lit up the screen. How's it going? He asked when I answered. Is the turkey a hit? The simple question broke something inside me. A sob escaped before I could stop it. Sam? Alarm filled his voice. What happened? Everything, I managed. It all fell apart. Dad, he said I'm not part of the family anymore. He disowned me, Jason. At my own table. I'm coming over, he said immediately. Don't move. No, you don't have to, I began, but he had already hung up. 15 minutes later, Jason arrived, still wearing the sweatpants and t-shirt he'd changed into after leaving my place earlier. One look at his concerned face broke the fragile composure I'd been trying to rebuild. He held me while I sobbed, not asking questions, just providing the solid comfort of his presence. When I could finally speak coherently, we moved to my couch, and I recounted the entire disastrous meal. Jason listened without interrupting, though his expression darkened with each detail. He had no right to speak to you that way, Jason said when I finished, anger evident in his voice. None. This isn't about you failing, Sam. This is about him being a controlling, emotionally abusive person who can't stand when people don't conform to his narrow vision. But what if he's right? I whispered, giving voice to my deepest fear. What if I am a disappointment? My career isn't as prestigious as Tyler's. I'm not getting married like Haley. Maybe I am falling behind. Behind who? By whose standards? Jason asked, taking my hands. You're 27 years old. You own your own home. You're respected at work. You have friends who love you. The only standard you're not meeting is your father's impossible one, and trust me, Sam, no one could meet that. Not even Tyler or Haley, ultimately. Deep down, I knew he was right. My entire life had been shaped by trying to earn my father's approval, jumping through ever-moving hoops, only to find the finish line perpetually out of reach. I just never thought he'd actually disown me, I said. Criticize me, yes. Be disappointed, constantly. But to cut me off completely? It's manipulation, Jason replied firmly. He expects you to come crawling back, begging forgiveness for standing up to him. He's used to controlling everyone around him through fear and disapproval. My phone pinged with a text from Haley. Mom and Dad got home. Huge fight. Dad still raging. Mom crying. Tyler trying to reason with him. Are you okay? Call me. I showed Jason the message. See? The whole family is in chaos now because of me. No, Jason corrected gently. The family is in chaos because your father chose to blow up Thanksgiving rather than allow his adult daughter to have her own life and opinions. There's a difference. As evening fell, more messages arrived. Tyler called to check on me, his voice uncharacteristically serious. Dad's still on his high horse, but this is wrong, Sam. Everyone knows it. Even Mom, though she won't say it directly. Thanks, Ty, I said, touched by his support. But I don't want you caught in the middle. We're already in the middle, he replied. We're family. Megan called next, offering to come over with wine and leftovers, since my own Thanksgiving meal had been abandoned. I'm okay, I assured her, though it wasn't entirely true. Jason's here. Good, she said. But my offer stands if you change your mind. And Sam? Your dad is a grade-A jerk. I've always thought so, but now it's confirmed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Jason stayed over, holding me while I alternated between tears and angry rants, processing the day's events. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's cold expression as he declared me cut off from the family. Around 3 in the morning, exhaustion finally giving way to clarity, I found myself thinking about other Thanksgivings, other family gatherings where similar patterns had played out. My college graduation, when my father's only comment was that UMass wasn't challenging enough. My first promotion, dismissed as just marketing. Every achievement measured against an invisible yardstick and found wanting. It's never been about me, has it? I whispered into the darkness. What do you mean? Jason asked, still awake beside me. Nothing I did was ever going to be enough, I said slowly. Because the problem isn't my accomplishments. It's that I stopped letting him dictate my choices. I chose my own major, my own career, my own home. I chose you. Jason stroked my hair. You chose your own path. That's called being an adult. But in his world, it's called betrayal, I realized. He doesn't want adult children with their own lives. He wants extensions of himself, reflections of his own ego. That's pretty insightful for 3 in the morning, Jason said softly. Years of therapy are finally paying off, I replied, attempting a small joke. Speaking of therapy, I texted my therapist Caitlin first thing the next morning, asking for an emergency session. Thankfully, she had a cancellation that afternoon. He disowned me at Thanksgiving dinner, I told her, still struggling to believe the words as I spoke them. Caitlin, who had heard plenty about my father over our 2 years working together, took a measured breath before responding. That's an extreme reaction, she said carefully. But not entirely surprising given the patterns we've discussed. Your father uses emotional withdrawal as a control mechanism. When regular criticism doesn't work, he escalates. But disowning your child? I pressed. That seems beyond normal controlling behavior. You're right, she agreed. It crosses into emotional abuse. The question now is how you want to respond. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to call and apologize just to fix everything, even though I know I didn't do anything wrong. Another part wants to never speak to him again. Both reactions are natural, she assured me. But before you make any decisions, I'd like you to consider what a healthy relationship with your family would actually look like. Not what you've had, but what you deserve. I spent the rest of the day pondering that question. What would a healthy family relationship look like? Certainly not walking on eggshells, constantly seeking approval that never came. Not having my worth determined by my career or relationship status. Not being compared unfavorably to my siblings at every turn. By evening, anger had begun to replace my initial shock and hurt. Not a hot, reactive anger, but something deeper and more resolute. I deserved better than how I'd been treated. Not just at Thanksgiving, but for my entire life. Jason found me at my desk that night, writing in my journal. "You look different," he observed. "More. I don't know, centered." "I'm done," I said simply. Done trying to earn his approval. Done accepting the criticism and the comparisons. If he wants to disown me, fine. But he doesn't get to define who I am anymore. "That sounds like progress to me," Jason said, kissing the top of my head. "It's a start," I replied, feeling stronger than I had in days. Now I just need to figure out what to do next. I woke up Saturday morning with unprecedented clarity. After a lifetime of seeking my father's approval, the cycle had finally been broken, not by my choice, but by his dramatic rejection. Now I had a decision to make. Would I fall back into the familiar pattern of appeasement, or would I finally establish boundaries that protected my well-being? Jason was in my kitchen making coffee when I emerged from the bedroom. He'd stayed over again, concerned about leaving me alone with my thoughts. "Morning," he said, sliding a mug toward me. "How are you feeling?" "Surprisingly okay," I replied, realizing it was true. "Actually, better than okay. I feel free." Jason studied my face. "Free? For as long as I can remember, everything I've done has been filtered through the lens of, will Dad approve?" I explained. Every decision, every achievement, always wondering if it would finally be enough. But now that question is gone. He's removed himself from the equation. "And that's good?" Jason asked cautiously. "It's clarifying," I said. "I get to decide what success looks like for me, not him." "It's terrifying, but also kind of exhilarating." Jason smiled. "I like this version of you. Decisive. Strong." "Well, don't get too excited. I still have no idea what to do about the actual situation. My mom's called 3 times since Thursday. Haley texted that Dad expects an apology. Tyler thinks everyone should just move on and pretend it never happened. What do you want?" Jason asked, cutting through the noise of others' expectations. The question stopped me short. What did I want? Not just regarding this situation, but in my relationship with my family moving forward? I need to talk to someone about this, I decided. Someone professional. I texted Caitlin again, asking if she had any weekend availability. Fortunately, she had a cancellation that afternoon and could see me for an emergency session. In her calm, sunlit office, I laid out the developments since our last meeting, the calls from family members, the expectations, and my own surprising feelings of liberation mixed with grief. "It sounds like you're at a crossroads," Caitlin observed after listening carefully. "This situation, painful as it is, presents an opportunity to redefine your family relationships on healthier terms." "If that's even possible," I said doubtfully. "My dad's not exactly known for his flexibility." "This isn't about changing your father," Caitlin clarified. "It's about changing how you respond to him. Setting boundaries isn't asking others to behave differently. It's clarifying what you will and won't accept in your life." "So, what does that look like practically?" I asked. "It might start with a clear communication about your experience and your needs going forward," she suggested. "Not an argument or defense, but a statement of your reality and your boundaries." "Like an email?" I asked, imagining trying to articulate such complex feelings in writing. "An email can work well for this purpose," she agreed. "It gives you time to choose your words carefully without interruption or reaction. The important thing is that you express your truth without seeking approval or trying to change anyone else." The idea resonated deeply. For the first time, I could see a way forward that didn't involve either complete capitulation or permanent estrangement. When I returned home, I opened my laptop and began composing an email addressed to my entire family: mother, father, brother, and sister. I wanted them all to hear directly from me, without interpretation or intermediaries. The words came slowly at first, then in a rush as years of unspoken truths found their way onto the page. I wrote, deleted, and rewrote sections, determined to be honest, but not accusatory, clear, but not cruel. 3 hours later, I had a draft that felt right. I called Jason to read it to him before sending. "Dear family," I began. "I've taken some time to process what happened at Thanksgiving, and I'm writing to share my thoughts and feelings about where we go from here. Dad, when you said I was no longer part of the family, it was painful but also illuminating. It helped me see how our relationship has operated for years. With my worth dependent on meeting your expectations and standards, rather than being valued for who I am. I want to be clear, I am proud of the life I've built. I'm proud of my career, my home, and my relationship with Jason. These aren't consolation prizes or stepping stones to some better future. They are my choices, made thoughtfully and in alignment with my own values. Moving forward, I can no longer participate in a family dynamic where love and acceptance are conditional. I deserve better, and frankly, so do all of you." What does this mean practically? It means I will no longer seek approval for my life choices. It means I won't tolerate criticism disguised as guidance. It means Jason will be included in any family events I attend, as he is my partner and deserves respect. Mom, Tyler, Haley, I love you all and want relationships with you independent of Dad's feelings toward me. But I understand if that's complicated or impossible right now. Dad, despite everything, I love you too. But I don't accept your decision to disown me, nor do I accept the premise that I've failed by living authentically. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it needs to be one based on mutual respect and acceptance. This isn't an ultimatum or an attempt to control anyone else's behavior. It's simply me clarifying what I need to maintain my well-being and dignity. I hope we can find a way forward that works for everyone, but I'm prepared to continue on my path regardless. With love and hope, Samantha. When I finished reading, there was silence on the phone. "Too much?" I asked nervously. "Sam, that was perfect," Jason replied, his voice thick with emotion. Honest, clear, and strong without being vindictive. "I'm so proud of you. You think I should send it?" "Absolutely," he said without hesitation. "This isn't about punishing them or cutting them off. It's about establishing healthy boundaries." It's exactly what Caitlin was talking about. I took a deep breath and hit send before I could lose my nerve. Then I closed my laptop, determined not to obsessively check for responses. "Now what?" I asked Jason. "Now we wait," he said. "And regardless of how they respond, we celebrate the fact that you just took a huge step toward a healthier life." We ordered takeout and watched movies, a deliberate departure from the emotional intensity of the past few days. I managed to mostly push thoughts of my email from my mind, though occasional waves of anxiety would hit me. "What if they all take Dad's side?" I asked during a quiet moment. "Then you'll know where everyone stands," Jason replied honestly. "And we'll build our holidays around the people who value you for who you are." It wasn't until Sunday morning that responses began arriving. My phone pinged with a text from Haley first. "Just read your email. I'm 100% with you, sis. Dad was way out of line. We should talk soon. Love you." Her immediate support brought tears to my eyes. Shortly after, Tyler called. "Got your email," he said when I answered. "Pretty powerful stuff, Sam." "Too much?" I asked for the second time in 24 hours. "No," he said firmly. It needed to be said. "Look, Dad and I had a long talk yesterday. He's Dad. Stubborn. Convinced he's right. But I told him he crossed a line with you, and I think it got through, at least a little. Thanks for standing up for me," I said, genuinely touched. "We're siblings," he replied. "That means something. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry if I've contributed to you feeling less than all these years. Dad's always compared us, and I never pushed back on it enough." His acknowledgement meant more than I could express. "Thanks, Ty. That means a lot." By evening, I'd still heard nothing from either parent. I was beginning to assume they were ignoring my email when a message from my mother appeared in my inbox. "Samantha," she wrote. "I've read your email several times now. First, I want to say how sorry I am for what happened at Thanksgiving. Your father was wrong to say what he did, and I was wrong to remain silent. That's a pattern I'm not proud of. Your father and I are not in agreement about how to respond to your email. He's still very hurt and angry. But I want you to know that regardless of what he decides, you will always be my daughter and I will always love you. I don't know what comes next for our family, but I hope we can find a way to heal these wounds and build something better. I have some reflecting to do on my own role in all this. Love, Mom. It wasn't an apology exactly, but it was more acknowledgement of the problem than I'd ever received from her. I forwarded the email to Jason, who called immediately. This is huge, he said. Your mom actually standing up for herself and you? That's progress. Maybe, I said cautiously. Let's see if anything actually changes. No response came from my father that day or the next. As the new week began, I returned to work, finding unexpected comfort in the normalcy of my daily routine. My boss Aaron noticed the change in my demeanor. You seem different after the holiday, he commented. More confident. That promotion is looking more and more likely, just so you know. I smiled, realizing that for the first time, I was proud of my accomplishments for their own sake, not as potential evidence of my worth to present to my father. That evening, I had dinner with Megan and Lindsay, filling them in on everything that had happened since Thanksgiving. So you basically disowned them back, Lindsay observed after I showed them my email. Not exactly, I corrected. I just set boundaries about how I'm willing to be treated going forward. Either way, it's badass, Megan declared. After years of taking his criticism, you finally stood up for yourself. That's worth celebrating. And so we did, toasting to new beginnings and chosen family with glasses of wine in my small but charming dining room. Later that night, I received an unexpected text from Haley. Just had dinner with Mom. She asked about Jason and said she'd like to meet him properly sometime. Baby steps? Baby steps indeed, I thought. And for now, that was enough. Christmas lights twinkled in windows throughout my neighborhood as December unfolded. 1 month had passed since the Thanksgiving disaster, and the holiday season brought its own unique anxieties. Normally, Christmas meant elaborate celebrations at my parents' house, with matching family pajamas for photos, selected by my mother, and carefully chosen gifts that rarely reflected what anyone actually wanted. This year, everything was different. I hadn't spoken directly to my father since Thanksgiving. He'd eventually responded to my email with a terse 3-sentence reply. I've read your message. I think you're being overly sensitive. Let me know when you're ready to be reasonable. It wasn't the response I'd hoped for, but it no longer devastated me. As Caitlin had reminded me in our sessions, his reaction is about him, not you. You can't control how he receives your truth. Instead of obsessing over his disapproval, I channeled my energy into creating new traditions. Jason and I bought a small Christmas tree for my living room and decorated it with ornaments we chose together. No color-coordinated theme like my mother insisted upon, just items that made us happy. The most surprising development was how much my life had improved since setting boundaries. Without the constant undercurrent of anxiety about earning my father's approval, I found myself more focused at work, more present in my relationships, and more comfortable in my own skin. Aaron called me into his office the second week of December. I wanted to let you know before the company-wide announcement, he said, grinning. The director position is yours. You earned it, Sam. The product launch exceeded all our projections, and your leadership made that happen. In the past, my first thought would have been how to present this news to my father in a way that might finally impress him. Instead, I simply felt proud of myself for myself. Thank you, I said, matching Aaron's smile. I'm excited to take on the challenge. That evening, I shared the news with Jason over dinner at my place. Director of Marketing, he said, raising his glass in a toast. I always knew you were destined for greatness. It's just a title, I demurred, though secretly pleased. It's more than that, Jason insisted. It's recognition of your talent and hard work. And the timing is perfect. Perfect for what? I asked, curious about his cryptic smile. Well, he said, suddenly looking nervous, I was going to wait until Christmas for this, but... He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stuttered in my chest as he opened it to reveal a delicate sapphire ring. Samantha, he said, voice soft with emotion, this past month has shown me yet again what an incredible, strong, brave woman you are. I've known for years that I want to spend my life with you, but seeing you stand up for yourself and your happiness confirmed it. Will you marry me? Tears blurred my vision as I nodded. Yes, I whispered. Absolutely yes. As he slipped the ring onto my finger, I felt a moment of sadness pierce through my joy. In another reality, this would be news I'd share immediately with my entire family. My mother would be planning the wedding before we'd even set a date. My father would. What would my father do? I realized I couldn't even imagine a scenario where he would simply be happy for me without qualification or criticism. What are you thinking? Jason asked, noticing my expression. Just family stuff, I admitted. The complicated feelings. He nodded understandingly. We don't have to figure it all out tonight. This is about us, not them. He was right, of course. But the next morning, I made a decision. I composed a simple email to my mother. Hi, Mom, I wanted to share some news with you. Jason proposed last night, and I said yes. We haven't set a date yet, but I'd love to talk when you have time. Love, Sam. I hesitated before adding my father to the recipient list, then decided against it. One step at a time. My mother's response came within the hour, a flurry of congratulations, questions about the ring, and an invitation to lunch the following week. Just us girls, she wrote. I'd love to get to know Jason better soon, too. It was the most normal interaction we'd had in years. When we met for lunch, my mother seemed different. More subdued, less anxious to fill silences with nervous chatter. Your ring is beautiful, she said, examining my hand across the table. Jason has good taste. He knows I prefer colored stones to diamonds, I explained. He listens. She nodded, a flash of something like regret crossing her face. That's important in a marriage. Being heard. We ordered our food, dancing around the elephant in the room until finally, over dessert, she broached the subject. Your father still doesn't understand why you're so upset, she said carefully. He thinks you overreacted. I took a measured breath before responding. I'm not surprised. But this isn't about convincing him he's wrong. It's about me needing to be treated with respect. He respects you, she protested weakly. He just has high standards. Mom, I said gently. There's a difference between high standards and conditional love. Dad only approves of me when I'm living exactly as he prescribes. That's not respect, and it's not healthy. She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know how to fix this, Samantha. It's not your job to fix it, I assured her. Dad and I will either find a new way to relate to each other, or we won't. But I'd like to have a relationship with you regardless. I'd like that too, she said, surprising me with the firmness in her voice. And I want to meet Jason properly. He's important to you, so he should be important to me. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. The week before Christmas, I received an unexpected email from my father. My heart raced as I opened it, prepared for either an olive branch or another attack. Samantha, he wrote. Your mother tells me you're engaged. Congratulations. I hope we can put our disagreement behind us and move forward as a family. We're having our usual Christmas Eve gathering. You and Jason are welcome to attend. No apology. No acknowledgement of his behavior. Just an expectation that we would put our disagreement behind us as if it had been a minor spat rather than him disowning me. I showed the email to Jason, who frowned as he read it. Classic non-apology, he observed. What do you want to do? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to go, if only to see everyone else. Another part feels like attending would be accepting that how he treated me was okay. You don't have to decide right now, Jason reminded me. I brought the dilemma to my next session with Caitlin. This is a common pattern in family dynamics, she explained after I shared the email. Your father is extending what seems like an invitation, but it's really an expectation of return to the status quo. So I shouldn't go? I asked. I can't tell you what to do, she replied. But I'd encourage you to consider what attending would mean for your boundaries. Is this an opportunity for healing or a potential repeat of old patterns? After much reflection, I composed a response to my father. Dad, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate your congratulations on my engagement. However, I don't think it's possible to simply put our disagreement behind us without addressing what happened. When you disowned me at Thanksgiving, it was the culmination of years of conditional approval and criticism. I would like us to have a healthy relationship, but that requires changes on both sides. I need acknowledgement of how your words and actions have affected me and a commitment to interact respectfully going forward. Jason and I have made other plans for Christmas Eve, but I'd be open to meeting in the new year to talk, just the two of us, if you're willing. Love, Samantha. I sent the email feeling strong in my boundaries, but uncertain of the outcome. I didn't receive a direct reply from my father, but Tyler called the next day. I saw your email to Dad, he said. Mom showed me. And? I asked, bracing myself. And I think you're right, he said, surprising me. What he said to you is wrong, and he should acknowledge that. Haley and I have both told him so. You have. I couldn't hide my shock. Yeah, Tyler confirmed. Your email back in November, it made me think about a lot of things. How Dad treats all of us, really. The different standards, the manipulation. I never saw it clearly before because I was the good son, you know? But watching what happened to you, it wasn't right, Sam. His words brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Thanks, Ty. That means a lot. So anyway, he continued, we're still having the family thing on Christmas Eve, but Haley and I thought maybe we could do our own siblings' Christmas the day after? Maybe at your place? With Jason, of course. The suggestion filled me with warmth. I'd love that, I said sincerely. And so a new tradition was born. While my parents had their traditional Christmas Eve gathering, Jason and I spent the evening with friends, Megan, Lindsay, and several others who had become our chosen family over the years. We ate takeout Chinese food, played board games, and laughed until our sides hurt. On Christmas Day, Tyler and Haley, along with her fiancé Davis, came to my home. We exchanged gifts, shared stories, and enjoyed each other's company without the tension that had always pervaded family gatherings in the past. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of awkwardness when our parents came up in conversation, but it felt genuine in a way our family interactions rarely had before. As the new year approached, I reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past few months. What had begun as a devastating rejection had transformed into an opportunity for growth and authentic connection. The journey wasn't over, of course. My relationship with my father remained complicated and uncertain. He still hadn't acknowledged the harm he caused, and I still wasn't willing to pretend it hadn't happened. But I discovered that I could hold both love for my family and firm boundaries around how I deserved to be treated. More importantly, I'd learned that my worth wasn't determined by my father's approval or anyone else's. It came from within, from living according to my own values, making choices that honored my authentic self, and surrounding myself with people who loved me unconditionally. My phone buzzed with a text from Haley. Just checking in. How are you doing with everything? I thought carefully before responding, still figuring it out day by day. But honestly, I'm better than I've ever been. And it was true. By standing up for myself, by essentially disowning the unhealthy dynamic that had defined my family relationships for years, I'd finally found the freedom to build a life based on genuine connection rather than conditional approval. It wasn't the ending I would have chosen for my family story. But perhaps it wasn't an ending at all, just a necessary transformation. And for the first time in my life, I was excited to see what came next. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who couldn't see your worth? Or found yourself trying to earn the approval of someone who constantly moved the goalposts? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and others, is to stand firm in your truth. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you the courage to create the relationships you deserve.